In this video I have an Intel NUC, and what has happened is the button is stuck there. It's been depressed and it won't pop back out. So there you can see it's in there and I can't get it out. Alright, so the first step is make sure it's unplugged. I'm now going to open the unit. I take a star screwdriver and I unscrew these 4 screws. Note they do not come out all the way. Once you loosen them, you can see that it gets stuck there. It stays like that. Right, I just make sure these are all loose, and then I lift diagonally opposite, and then I lift diagonally opposite. Right, and I gently hold this here and I flip it around like that. You see there is a cable there, and I need to release that cable before I continue. So I pull out the SATA cable and this cable over here. Now I've separated the hard drive from the motherboard section. Right, and I need to remove 2 screws. There's one over here and one underneath this SSD. So I have to first remove this. There's a star screw over here. Now when touching motherboards and SSDs, I recommend you use an earth strap. I put this on my wrist and I can connect this to an earthing point in my office. If you do not have an earth strap, you can still do this repair. Just make sure you're not doing it in a carpeted room. And I just touch the edges here. I don't touch any of the ICs. Right, there is the one screw and there is the other screw. Right, so I've removed the black screw from the corner there and the other one on the side. Before I remove the motherboard, I'm just going to remove these RF wires 1 and 2. There is a blanking rubber here covering the LED. I just remove that. I flip this upside down, holding it in hand, and I tap it. Notice that when I'm holding the motherboard, I'm only holding on the edges. I'm not fingering any of the components. Right, there's the switch. It is depressed in, and if I flip it upside down, there is the other side of the switch, and it's actually stuck. Right, now what I want to do is I want to separate this section from the frame. So all I do is I press it out. As you can see, there's a gap that's formed there and a gap, and I do it evenly, and you can now get this part out. There we go. Alright, if your button isn't just sticky but it's actually damaged, for example, when I'm pressing it, it's clean but it's got a distinctive clip. It's almost like it's clipped in there. It no longer has a uniform travel. It's like something has broken inside there or something is rough. So now I'm going to open this section. Right, to open this lid, just be very careful you do not snap it. I just go like that on the side, and using my thumb I open it along the side evenly. So I'm just traveling my thumb along the side. There we go. There, and I'm back to where I started, and there you can see the top comes off. Now there's the button. So in this case you can see that the button is definitely damaged. Now on this particular unit, the button has a piece of plastic which is connected to the plastic which surrounds this whole thing. So what happens here is it's actually part of the same unit. So if I remove the lid here, if I remove the button part, the silver part, you can see there's the plastic, and there is where it is broken, and that is why it is getting stuck and not popping back out. So what was supposed to happen is it was supposed to be fused onto that side, and then when you depress it down, it automatically pops back up because it would have been glued or, well, actually plastic welded or actually part of the mold to that side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and glue it or weld it back to that side. That's supposed to be the plastic outer layer of the button, and then when you depress it down, it goes down and immediately bounces back up. And how it bounces back up is by being held in place on that attachment point over there, and that is what has broken off. There we go. So I'm just going to use a soldering iron and melt this back into place. So I'm taking my soldering iron and I'm melting this and rejoining it. And I'm just going to borrow some plastic from this side. Right, so this is my finished product, and I'm going to just tell you some of the things to look out for. If you are not prepared to do this repair, you'll need to buy this plastic piece. It comes out there, you'll have to melt that and that and that and that, and then it'll come out, you buy the replacement and put it back in. Resoldering this is not that easy. It took me a good 20 minutes. I didn't show all my mistakes on the video. Some things to look out for. This needs to be lower than the platform. As you can see, it's lower because when you insert the top of the button, notice that this platform over here is at the same level as this. So you can see that the button is actually recessed. Now the next thing is that gap there is critical, because once you put the cover on, you'll notice that the button sits like this. What happens is the button actually flaps. It flaps like that. That's what the button does. So if you've got it too far to that side, it's actually getting stuck on that edge. So you almost want it a bit closer to that side so it can flap. Or if you can get it exactly, that's wonderful, but I wasn't able to do that. So I recommend just get it a little bit closer to the inner part, and then when it flaps down, it doesn't catch on the black plastic. Then when you are doing your plastic welding, don't get any plastic where the button top sits, because as you can see, there's a bit of a height to that button which sits inside there. If you have stuffed that up, just solder it a bit bigger. If you've really stuffed it up, just grind that down and stick this on there. You could effectively grind that lip down and then stick the top onto the platform. Now that's my final version and it works very well. Now what you'll notice is it presses perfectly, but once you install the motherboard, you'll see that this thing doesn't move much. It's more like that. So it's not going to have a lot of movement, so you don't have to worry about it becoming brittle. So if you want to, you could do a quick check. There's the switch, and the switch actually aligns to that, not that. So for example, if I mate these two together now, that's the button press. It's barely even moves. The point is the button doesn't collapse in, and therefore it no longer gets stuck. So that's it. It's a tiny little press. I'll even play it for you. Right, now it's time to reassemble this. Just check the profile hasn't been heightened, and now I can just put this cover back on. If you can't get one side on, just go to the other side. It's a bit tricky, requires a bit of wobbling. Alright, so there's my completed button. Notice it's close to that side, far from that side, and that's because it leans that way, so it no longer scratches on that edge. Right, when returning this, the power button goes towards the front where the headphone and mic jack is. Use a balance force to press that in. If you've made yours too low, for example, it's too much towards the motherboard, you might just need to lower that post a bit there. How you will know is when you seat this, if you're unable to press the button. For example, if it's pressed all the time, then that post is too high. So you see there's mine, it's a little bit sunken, but there's a definitive click there. So mine is fine. I can now close this up. Now at this point, you might want to just blow this out. Yours might have a lot of dust. You can blow it out gently with a blower. Now I use something called a contact cleaner, and I just spray a little bit here just to make sure that this button is in good working order. If you haven't got a contact cleaner, then just skip this step. Please do not use WD-40 or anything like that. It must be a contact cleaner if you're going to spray into that button. Now I want to get these RF wires this side. I don't want them to block the SD port over there. Right, now I've seated it. Just check that the ports are lined up correctly. Right, when seating it, make sure the RF wires are there and not blocking the SD port. Check that the RF wires can be moved. For example, you don't want something that is pinning the wire down. Right, now all I need to do is insert that screw and that screw. Right, so I just fasten the RF wires down. I find it's easier to use my nail to fasten the wires down. Now it's time to insert the SSD. I arrive at an angle. I do not wiggle it. I only go in that direction. There's a little LED there in the front, so this has come off. I just need to seat this back over here. Right, now time to insert these two cables. And I can depress this down. Right, here's the repaired NUC. Notice there's the button. It has a definitive click. Right, so I plug it in and switch it on, and there you can see immediately it's on. The switch is not stuck in, And there it's on, and if I want to switch it off, press and hold for 4 seconds. And just doing a quick test on the repair, even if I'm rough with it, I mean I'm actually slamming it, you can see. And now I'll plug it in. And there's the blue light. Okay, thanks for watching and cheers.